This here is, I don't know if many of you know, but we've been very heavily involved with the business of marketing gymnastics for some years now. I've been, as you'll see, I'll go through it, but as I've been involved through my wife in the gymnastics business since 2004, directly when we owned a gym back in those days. And my wife has been a part of it since she was a kid, and then she was a teenage coach, and then she was a director, and then a gym owner, and blah, blah, blah. So her life has been gymnastics. So we really do understand the business. The team at Creatively Disruptive, because we've been working on it for so long, really do understand the business and what you guys go through and what you guys deal with. And it's become kind of like a personal, special business to be a part of. And I think, you guys are putting good out there with helping children be all they can be, especially young girls and so forth in the gymnastics industry. For those of you in swim and dance and so forth, it's all about helping develop children to be all they can be, which I don't know if there's a better thing for any organization to be supportive of. And with that, we do have the Olympics that is coming up. We do have the pandemic that is easing. We are reopening, and there's massive pent up demand of parents that have not been able to maybe get their kids as involved with sport and activities for the last year. And in my opinion, and I think it's probably proven out scientifically, is kids have really had a tough year. It's been very challenging, and kids have really struggled. And I think you guys are a major part of helping them get some normality in their lives and bring the fun back in, right? And so we want to really, in a big way, support you. And there's multiple things that we're going to go through and chat to you about what we're doing for you. But the main thing with this 4 days of classes, and it's for 1 hour, so it's not like all day, but each time at the same time, it's going to be this link. So remember this link. We're going to be doing training, and the whole thing is about helping you guys understand and build out your own marketing so you can actually make the most of this massive buildup of interest based on the Olympics, but also the massive buildup of interest based on the lockdowns and the pandemic. And I think 2021 should be a big year, and the goal should be to at least get you back to where you were pre-pandemic, if not further. I think there's the opportunity for that, and we'll go through this right now. So first up, this is me, Andy Seeley. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Creatively Disruptive, former gym owner, media pro, been in media for 20 years. Got a little 3-year-old son, and obviously my wife has been a gymnastics pro all her life, and is the main reason why we are involved. Here's our social media links. Feel free to go and get involved with us. Most all of it is helpful facts and interesting things, and I highly recommend that you get involved there. Some fun facts about me. We've been marketing gymnastics since 2015. We work, and when I say me, me as in the colloquial we of Creatively Disruptive. We're working directly with 60+ gymnastics gyms as clients. That's actually growing pretty quickly. We'll show you why shortly. And we're supporting over 2,000, I think it's close to 2,500 gymnastics professionals in the gymnastics marketing group. So if you're not part of the gymnastics marketing group on Facebook, I highly recommend that you join that. It's a learning, portal. In fact, USAG has actually acknowledged it as a resource. So feel free to go in there. And my team is constantly putting in information about different things that are going on with the platforms in relation to kids activity centers and so forth, and how you can help promote yourselves. And then there's some really good discussions that often happens between the members. This is the team that's going to be training with you guys. We've got Ella, who's on the switchboard right now, trying to make sure you guys are all being communicated with. She is our community manager. She's usually the one that will respond to you if you do reach out to us through any social media, and she is our PR expert and branding and marketing expert. Russ is my co-founder, and he's the Chief Operations Officer. He's going to be teaching you guys about targeting and the amazing ability that especially Facebook has to target specific audiences, which is really where you want to be. You don't want to be spending any money on anything other than reaching your specific audience, which is mums and dads, parents. And then we have Natalie, our pay-per-click and email marketing manager, and she's going to be assisting us with the branding portion. Is it the branding, Ella? Is it branding and messaging? I think she's going to be, anyway, you'll be seeing.
Yes, it is branding and messaging.
You're going to be seeing Natalie probably tomorrow. She's going to be talking about that and what works. And she's been heavily involved with our gymnastics clients and kids activity center clients for the last couple of years. So she's got some really good information to share. And then we go down. So you can never go wrong by investing in communities and the human beings within them. And we really believe that you guys are doing that on a day-to-day basis with the kids that are involved, with the parents that are involved in your gym. You're investing your time, your energies, and part of that, in my mind, is making sure that you're investing in your business to get the word out about what you do. There's amazing magic that happens in gymnastics gyms and swim schools and dance schools every day, you know, from a little 3-year-old or 4-year-old that's just starting out to suddenly finding their confidence. That could be a game changer for the rest of their lives. And you guys create that day in, day out. And we want to make sure that your communities understand that, because oftentimes, you know, I'll give you my example of my gym. We lived in a little town of 30,000, right? And we had a gym, and there were literally parents, even to the day that we sold the gym, which was about 9-10 years after we purchased it. There was still parents that had been there that whole entire time that didn't know that we existed, that didn't know that we were there. It's like, how does that happen in a town of 30,000, right? And if you're in a town of 50, 60, 100, a million, there's a good chance that there's many parents that would potentially want to be part of what you're doing, that just don't know that you even exist. So we need to be changing that, right? And this is what we're going to be talking about, is along those lines. At the end of this, there's an exclusive bonus that we're going to be talking to you about. So watch right to the end, and we'll be talking a little bit about that. And a lot of that is to do with the 2-month marketing kickstart. And we're going to talk about that. There's a thing that we're doing to assist kids activity centers because of the pandemic and because of the Olympics. And we'll talk about that. What we're going to be covering over the next 4 days is going to be, today is going to be mindset and goals. What is possible? Why is that possible? So you guys have an understanding of why this is important and what potentially can happen. And a lot of the information that we're going to share with you is real world stuff that we've seen happen, and we know is possible because we've seen it happen with the clients that we literally work with, right? Tomorrow we're going to be talking about branding and messaging and about how important it is to get that right, because we're speaking to a specific audience, and making sure that we're catering and inspiring that audience to look into you more and to engage and do business with you. And then on day 3, we're building a campaign. So a lot of that is going to be about how do we make sure that your message is only going to that specific audience that we're talking to. We don't want your message going to an 80-year-old retiree that doesn't have any grandchildren, and we don't want it to be going to a 19-year-old guy who's just bought his car and is zipping around town on a Friday night, right? We want it to be going to parents of children that want to get their kids into activities, and we can do that with Facebook. Its targeting is second to none, as is Google is amazing, has amazing power. We want to make sure we're using that so every penny that you spend goes to get in front of exactly the person that's most likely to do business with you. We're going to walk through how you do that on day 3, which I think is Wednesday. And then on Thursday, on the 4th training, we're going to talk about, okay, we've we now understand what all the goals are and how this all works. We understand how to put the message together to the target audience. We've figured out how to, target that target audience with that message. Now, what do we do with the incoming inquiries? What's the best practices to get them to actually start doing business with us? Because there is a process to making sure that you make the most of that as well. All of this, again, has been based on what we've seen happen over the last 4 years in the Kids Activity Center industry. So first up, today, we're going to talk about mindset and goals. So today, we're going to talk about the things we need to consider, things that we maybe haven't thought about when we're looking at the opportunity that we have in front of us. We're going to be looking at making sure our head space is in the right space. Many of us have come through a really tough period, and you guys have been beaten up. Many of you might have been worried about your jobs. Some of you, if you're a staff member of a gym, might have been laid off for a period of time. It's not been a good time in the last 12 months. So it's not going to be crazy to think that your mindset might be a bit beaten up, and that's okay. But let's get our head around that and figure out what opportunities there are and set some goals to recover. We're going to talk a little bit about what oftentimes is your biggest obstacle, and we'll work through that. And then we're going to calculate some membership goals. And these, again, are based on real world numbers that are now numbers, right? Because everybody talks about, well, that was pre-pandemic, or this is post-pandemic. These are real world numbers that we can work through to help you figure out what's possible and how to get there. So first up is, are you your biggest obstacle? So when we say that, obviously, again, we're talking about what's happened from a pandemic standpoint. We're talking about, previous ways of doing business that might have been a good way to do business a couple of years ago. And even forget about the pandemic. The technology has moved even from 5 years ago so far that there's things that we can do today that we couldn't do 5 years ago. There's things that we can do today that we couldn't do a year ago. And there's changes that have happened 2 years ago or a year ago or even 6 months ago that causes things that we were doing a year ago or 2 years ago to not actually work anymore, because things are changing so quickly and things are happening that we can't just go, oh, that didn't work. I tried that back in 99 and that didn't work. Or I tried that back in 2015 and I'm not going to bother doing that. What we need to do is make sure that we have our mind open to opportunity and take control of it, because things are changing so quickly. Back in the day when I owned my gym, we did 3 forms of advertising. We had an ad in the newspaper, we had an ad on the radio, and we had an ad in a coupon book, right? So those were paid advertising. That was the 3 forms. And I would say that was pretty aggressive, considering we're in a town of 30,000 compared to most gyms. And that was our staple advertising. And it was hit and miss. I didn't really know if it worked. I didn't really get any feedback. Occasionally someone would say, I heard your ad on the radio, but I didn't really know what was going, because it was hard to measure. Oftentimes what felt like the best advertising was when we would do a show or a presentation at a high school or at a community event, or I remember where we lived, there was each year there was a event called the Day of the Young Child that was it was held in a local park, and there'd be loads of vendors and so forth, and people promoting different things for kids. And that typically was one of our biggest things that happened once a year, and we would sign 15 or 20 kids up, and it's like, well, okay, we've got to wait till next year to sign 15 or 20 kids. These things we need to be thinking outside of the box. Because of technology, we can sign 15 or 20 kids a month, if not more. In fact, we have some gyms right now that have been signing 100 kids a month, right? 100 kids a month. I think a little bit of that is pent up build up from the pandemic, but there's no way you'd sign up 100 kids a month through doing some newspaper ads or a coupon book, right? Now it's totally possible with technology. So don't put your own, this is what I've done anytime in front of potential opportunities that are happening, because I've got to say, there's things in my head which my team will tell me, hey, stop thinking that way, because that's actually not how it works anymore. Where I'm like, oh, let's not bother doing that, because that hasn't really worked before. And now they're saying, well, no, it actually works really well now because this has changed or that's changed, right? So do not wait for people to come find your business. Unfortunately, we might think that we're the center of the universe. I know I look at myself and I'm going, well, why isn't every single kids activity center in the United States working with Creatively Disruptive? We're the center of the universe. Well, we might not be the center of the universe for you guys, right? And that's just the way it is. So what we have to do is we have to go out there and wave our flag and tell our story and help and engage and be part of the Kids Activity Center community and the gymnastics community and the swim school community. And we have to be constantly there. We can't wait for you guys to track us down, because quite frankly, you guys are busy, right? Many of you are decision makers, but I'm almost certain you're not constantly thinking about how to market and drive business to your gym. I'm sure there's oftentimes thoughts of, I wish we had more kids in our gym, but oftentimes it's scheduling, it's, client, it's team issues, it's class issues, it's coaches that haven't turned up. There's a million things that you guys are dealing with. We can't wait for you to find us. We've got to help you find us. And it's the same with our parents, right? You got mums, they're running kids backwards and forwards to school. They've got all sorts of things going on. They're doing shopping, taking people to dental checkups and, health checkups and all the other stuff that goes on in parents' lives. They're not always going to find you. Some are going to be looking for you, but there's hundreds, if not thousands more that could do business with you if only you reached out to them. And I really suggest that every gym, every kids activity center, every swim school starts thinking about, what am I doing to actually be positively reaching out and saying, hey, here we are, come and talk to us. We'd love to help you and your child. You are the biggest obstacle to your success. I repeat, you are the biggest obstacle to your success. And that is not meant in a demeaning way. It's meant in a, you are busy way. You've got lots of things going on, and your expertise is typically in the industry that you're in. We've seen life-changing things happen to gyms. Jessica Alexander, who is our general manager, she will tell you multiple stories about different organizations that we've worked with in the Kids Activity Center realm, where we've gone from, in fact, I can tell you a story of a little gymnastics gym in Texas that when we first started working with us and they first started talking to Ella, was about to close down. They were going to close. And they were like, we can't stay open anymore. They were in a small community and they just weren't making any money. The owners were retirees getting into that retiree route, and they were really struggling, and they were in tears because so much of their heart and soul was in this business. Fast forward, 3 years, I think. They're selling
about 3 years.
After the pandemic. They actually have more kids in it than they've ever had in the history of their gym, and they're selling it. And they're going to use that money for their retirement. These are all things that happen, and it's all about not putting yourself in the way of that success. Do you want to say anything to that, Jessica?
Yeah, right now, just like that gym, there's quite a few other gyms that I work with, and actually the majority of which are actually in a better position now, like Andy said, than they were before the pandemic, which is so exciting. Every time I have conversations with people, they're talking about their numbers being higher than they have ever been, which is just a testament to what Andy was saying earlier about parents really needing an outlet for their children, looking for opportunities for their kids. Right. And, just putting yourself out there so that you can make sure that they're finding you to be that solution that they're looking for.
Yep. And I'd love to say that it's all us, it's all Creatively Disruptive, that no one else would have ever got it. The reality is, what we do and what we're going to show you how to do, because we're going to show you exactly what we do. It's not rocket science, right? If any of you end up doing business with us, it's not going to be because we're really amazing at this. It's going to be because you're too busy running a gym or a facility and you want someone else to do it who can do a good job of it. The reality is there's loads of business out there because there's so many parents desperately looking to get their kids into something. So there's a massive pent up demand, and technology has never been as strong as it is at the same time. So that mix of those two means that you can get your message in front of this massive demand and actually make some game-changing moves. And we really want to help you get there. And you know what? If you decide I don't have time, but I know it's really important, you can always look at us to hire us if that's what you want to do. But we're going to give you all of the information that you can do it yourself. Are your goals and mindset stuck in the past? So use every tool in your pool. And I also like to think of this analogy is oftentimes, I know when we owned our gym, we were constantly trying to figure out how to get, how to market to the people that were already doing business with us. So it was always like bring a friend day, referrals, all of that good stuff. The problem with that is that you're limited to the lake or the pool that you're already working with, right? So what we want to do is we want to grow your pool, externally to the people that are already in it. I think referrals are always good. There's nothing wrong with referrals. What is really, really important though is how do we grow that base that knows of you, right? Because what are you doing about getting in front of those that don't know about you? And I don't care how famous you are. I don't care how big of a gym you are. I don't care about how big a name you are in the industry. I don't care how big your swim school is or dance school is in your mind. It's not going to be, there's many, many people that don't know that you exist, and you aren't the center of the universe as far as they're concerned. And what we want to do is start changing that. We want to start changing and putting your brand in front of them so we can start growing your pool, right? So your pool isn't the same referral pool. So all of a sudden, instead of getting 4 or 5 referrals a month, maybe you're getting 20 referrals a month because your pool's so much bigger. And that's what we really want to be working on. That's a lot of what we're talking about is getting new people into your system that haven't thought about you or heard of you before. Your thinking capacity can easily thwart your chances of succeeding because you've already placed a psychological trap and expected negative outcomes of things. So what we see there a lot is, I'll give you an example of a psychological trap. Things are tough. You don't feel like you've got any money. It's like, oh, I can't spend $30 a day or $20 a day or $15 a day on Google ads or Facebook ads because it costs money, right? Not thinking that Google ad could easily give you a return of $100 or $200 a day, right? So, if you add one child and they spend, let's say on average $80 a month, and you add 10 kids a month, which is a very reasonable number. It's not a lot, even in a small community. You're adding $800 a month, right? You add that again next month, you're not adding 800 per month because those other 800 kids, those other 10 kids are still going to your organization. You've now got 1,600 a month. You do that the next month, those other 20 kids are still going to your organization. You're now at 2,400 a month. Very quickly, that $15, $20, $30 a day that you're spending can turn into $50,000, $60,000 a year or more. Like if you have 100 kids coming in a month, that's 8,000 a month. You times that by 12. The average kid typically in kids activity centers are staying between a year to 18 months, right? So you guys know that there's some kids that come, they stay for 3 months. There's some kids that stay for 15 years, but the average is around about a year to 18 months. So if you're bringing in whatever number of kids you are, times that by 12, 12 months, times that by adding that number every single month, you very quickly can get into some pretty exceptional returns on investment where you're spending maybe a couple of $1,000s, but you're bringing in tens of thousands of dollars a month of revenue that you wouldn't have brought in otherwise. And that can be a real psychological trap as to, oh, I don't want to spend any money because I don't have any money. Well, how do you can't, and the other thing that I hear oftentimes too is, I'm going to do some marketing when things are okay. I would suggest that sales and marketing are a major part of your business. And if you're not doing it, all you are is a service, and services go out of business all the time. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Embrace change and create your own opportunity. You have never before, from a technological standpoint, have you guys had the ability to create whatever you want to create. You guys typically, in my experience with most gymnastics gyms, have some pretty amazing programs and so forth, ranging from like straight out gymnastics to trampoline to tumbling to cheerleading, dance, ninja, all these different programs. Now you have the ability with technology to actually create and do whatever you wish to do, right? There's probably things that you've never thought of that you could do because of getting reach that you can now do, if that makes sense. So anyway, I think we've harped on about that a little bit. So what we want to do, right, from a advertising, this is what we're going to talk a lot about tomorrow and the next 2 days, is we don't want you to be the number one in your community. And with advertising on Facebook especially, you have the ability to be the only one, right? Does anybody understand the difference between being number one and the only one? Does somebody want to just type something or say what the difference is? Anybody? Just type something in chat. What do you guys think is the difference between the number one swim school or dance school in your town or being the only one in your town, even though there's lots of dance schools and swim schools maybe in your town? Somebody, go on. I want to see if anyone's listening. Everybody there, as they all turned off and they're all gone shopping. One person. Brandon, because I can see your eyes and I can see that you're listening, you tell me what you think that means.
The difference between being number one and the only one.
Yeah.
Basically, I would say the only one is quite simply the best. There's no one other better than that. And it's the only option that you have. And you don't even think about anybody else besides that. So if you are the only one, then they don't really have to think about whether they should go to you or not.
Yep. So there's two things going on there, and what your answer was absolutely correct, but there's an additional thing to it as well, which is really exciting that you can get ahead of. Is if you keep putting a really great message out there about the great stuff that you're doing, right, then you can quickly start getting that message out there and people start going, man, Brandon, your gym's amazing. It's the only place that I would even think of, because what an amazing program. That just seems great. What we're seeing though is in the kids activity realm, and this is across all kids, this is like soccer, baseball, everything. No one's using technology very well. No one's getting the word out very well. So if I'm a child, a parent of a child that's maybe 3 years old and we're looking to get them into some kind of sport, and I don't really know anything that's out there, but I see Brandon's gym come up and it's really, really cool. Very quickly, you're the only thought that I have in my head. I'm not thinking of the competitive gym. I'm not thinking of even competitive sports. I'm just thinking Brandon's gym because I see it and it looks cool and it's my only thought. I'm not thinking of anything else. It's the only thing I'm thinking about. So when I'm ready to pull the trigger, I'm not going to start going through all the different things that are out there. I'm going, I want to go to the Brandon Diebold's gym. That's pretty damn cool. I want to check that out because I've always wanted to do it. Thank God River is now old enough for me to take him there, and that's where we want to go. And you have this opportunity especially with Facebook right now, where you can be right at the top of their mind when they're about to pull the trigger. And what we have in a sense with the Olympics is we're going to have a massive boost as well with the pandemic of the Olympics are going to go. They're going to see the swims, the swimming. They're going to see the rhythmic gymnastics. They're going to see the artistic gymnastics, and they're going to get inspired by all these amazing competitors. And there's going to be mums, and they're going to be going, it's time for me to pull the trigger. If you can be out in front of that, and that means by advertising now, by putting your word out there on using Facebook, using Google right away. So when they're about to pull the trigger, instead of them just going into Google and typing gymnastics gyms or swim schools or dance schools, they just go, well, I'm typing whatever Brandon's gym name is because I heard of it. And then they're just going for you because that's the only thought that they have in their mind. They're not going to look at the whole list and start going through them. And oftentimes, especially with Google, when Google searches happens, whatever's at the top is the one that they choose. And they go down there, oh, this looks fine. They go. Let's actually weight it in your favor. So however many kids you have in your community, when that mum's ready to pull the trigger, and we have a trigger pulling moment in the Olympics that's coming up, that they just think of you and they just search for you. They're just looking for you. They're not looking for your competitor. They're not looking for gymnastics. They're not looking for swim schools. They're not looking for dance schools. They're looking for your school because they've heard so much about you already. And you could have a massive influx. It could be overwhelmingly big if you get into it, get ahead of it. And we've got what, 3 months before the Olympics? It's in July. So May, June, July, about 3 months. It's about enough time for you to really get that in their head. Right? That's the only thought. Doesn't matter how big the gym is next door. Doesn't matter how many medals they win in any kind of competitions that they're in. Doesn't matter how big a dog that the owner is. Doesn't matter, because you're the big dog in that parent's mind. You're the only one that they think about. Right? Don't try to be number one. Try to be the only one. That is our main thought when we're working with our clients. Focus on bettering your business and not what focus on you bettering your business, not on what everyone else is doing. One of the cool things about you guys getting in and making sure that you're executing online in a very strong way, and do it forever. It should, don't just do it for 3 months when the Olympics is finished. Just keep doing it, and you'll have the spigot of flow of business that will just constantly come in. And when you start getting full, you start raising your prices. When you feel that you're charging way too much, and we had one of our gyms, our very first gym that we ever worked with, when we first started working with them, they were at $70 a month. They're at 500 kids at $75 a month, right? They were the first gym that we ever worked with. Now, fast forward to today, they're charging $150 a month, right? And they had 900 kids. Right? So all of a sudden, their gym's gone from a fun play thing that they kind of do and they make a little bit of money on the side, because that's how it was treated by their husbands. It wasn't treated very seriously. To now, their gym is the main income earner for their families by a long shot, right? Because luckily they're in a large urban area, but they've branded themselves. They've been advertising consistently for 4 years. They're the top, they're now the only thought in most of the parents in their area's mind. Every time they raise prices, they have 100 kids leave, and then 100 kids come back in. And they keep raising it because they keep pushing up to 1,000, and 1,000's too much. They've got an 8,000 square foot gym. It's too big. It's too many, sorry, the gym's not big enough. There's too many kids that want to go there. So every time they raise the price, some kids leave and it's replaced by some more kids, right? And if you want to make sure that you're taking care of low-income families, do a low-income program. If you want to like take care of it, but then have those that can afford it pay you, so you can actually have a business that allows you to pay your staff the money that you want. And that if you own the gym yourself, that you maybe buy the land that your gym's in, or own the property that you're in, and can actually have a retirement. Because that's one thing that I see in the gymnastics community, especially, it's a labor of love with not a lot of payoff at the end, right? And it doesn't need to be that way, because you guys are producing and giving amazing things to these parents. So here's a little calculation. This is nuts and bolts for you, right? So this is kind of like absolutely what can happen. So think of your local population. So I'm in Surprise, Arizona, right? There's a population of about 150,000 people in Surprise, Arizona. So with 150,000 people, there's about 15% of them are under the age, high school and to 2 years old is about 15%. I think the average in the United States for under 18s is about 17%. But to be a bit conservative, we brought it down to 15%. So there's a child or a kid population base of about, was it 15% of 150,000? Is that what, 30, about 25,000 kids? All right, let me do my little math here. 150,000 times 0.15, it's 22,500 kids, right? So we've got 150,000. So do this for yourself. Figure out what your local population is, times that by 15. That's how many kids are likely in your area. There might be a few more, there might be a few less, but it's going to be around about that number, give or take. So in Surprise, Arizona, there's about 22,500 kids. I think there's maybe a little bit more. You'd think there'd be a whole bunch of retirees in the Surprise, Arizona,
Yeah.
right next to Sun City. Surprise is not Sun City, so we have a pretty decent kid population here, but it's 22,500. Times that by 10%. So 0.1. So I have potentially, I could get into my gym with good, strong marketing work. I could have a gym of 2,250. 2,250. And we've seen this equation work with most of our gyms. In fact, some of them can get more than that, right? The limitation oftentimes is that I've got a 10,000 square foot gym and I can only fit in 800 or 1,000, right?
Or staffing.
But potentially you could easily have a gym if you were in Surprise, Arizona, especially Surprise, Arizona, because I think there's one other gym in Surprise, Arizona. You could easily have a healthy membership goal of 2,250. 10% might sound like a really aggressive goal, but that's mainly because you're living in the land of, doing coupon books and kid recitals and blah, 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 which oftentimes has been going out there, or traditional media, which is a scattergun approach where you put an ad in a newspaper or TV or radio and everybody's listening to it, including 80-year-old retirees and 20-year-old guys who are just wanting to drive cars and meet girls, right? That's not what our target audience is. Our target audience is mums and dads, preferably mums, because they're the decision maker, who have children, right? And that's how we can say that 10% is an absolute goal. So think about where you're at. You might be in a population center of 300,000, 400,000. Well, you might have 60,000 kids in that area. You could have a gym with 6,000 kids in it. Might be a multiple gyms, that end up at being at 6,000 kids, right? But that is an absolute real number if you do the stuff right. How many of you would be at that number? Or do you think that number is a crazy number if you think about it? If you had a 20,000 square foot gym that could hold 5,000 kids in it, is that any of you thinking of that number and going, that's ridiculous, there's no way that will happen? Well, if you're so quiet, I've got Amberly Tool. She's given me some feedback, and Kimberly, thank you. And Brandon, obviously he uses words. Any of you guys, the rest of you, come on. All right, I'm not going to keep beating you up because you're all obviously super, super shy. So some things to remember: you're competing against all kids' activity offerings, right? All of a sudden, you're the only one that they're seeing. Remember what we just spoke about with Brandon, right? Sure, there's soccer, there's baseball, there's volleyball, there's the gamut. There's so many of them. So Ali, you potentially could have 7,000 gymnasts. Or is that 72,000 potential gymnasts? You live in a large metropolitan area. If you've got 72,000 kids in your area, then you'd have a 7,000 that you could potentially have as gymnasts to come to your gym. If you could have 72,000 gymnasts, then you have unlimited. You could have as many kids as you want. You could have multiple locations. Your opportunity is endless. The whole tactic is about getting out in front, so you're the only thought in these mothers' eyes who haven't got their kids into something. Or maybe there's a mum out there that's not that happy with the current gym. Maybe they're not that happy with the coaching. Maybe they kind of want something a bit different. All of a sudden, you're going to be in front of those mums too, and they're going to be like, well, maybe I should go to Courtney's gym. maybe Courtney does, that seems like a cool message. I like what they're doing. Maybe we should go there, right? All of a sudden, you're going to be able to get in front of those parents. So you're competing against all kids activity centers. The good thing to know is that all of them are doing a very bad job, including most of you right now are probably doing a bad job of marketing yourselves, at least from a technological standpoint. You're not doing the things that you could be doing. The good news about that is that so is your competition. They're all doing a poor job too. But what if you were the one organization in your area that actually did a good job? That could be game changing. The last thing to remember about this is tenure matters online. So be the first in your community to do it right, and Google and Facebook will reward you. So oftentimes, let's say, I'm going to pick on you, Courtney, because I can see you. So let's say there's Andy's Gymnastics and there's Courtney's Gymnastics, right? Let's say Andy's like, I'm not spending any money. I'm just going to get referrals. And then Courtney's like, hey, I'm going to use all the technology and all the resources to get the best result possible. Courtney gets out there and she starts cranking, and she's got all these kids and the kids are coming. Her gym's full. She's charging more than me. I'm like, why are they all going and paying $200, $150 to go to her? And she's got twice as many kids that I have. I'm cheap and I've only got half as many kids. What is she doing? And I look into it and I look at all the stuff that she's doing online. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start copying her. I'm going to do exactly what she's doing. I will get a bump. I will do better, but I will never rank as high or do as well as Courtney, because as far as Google and Facebook is concerned, Courtney's done it longer than I have. Tenure, as far as the platforms are concerned, means expertise, means, hey, this organization is better than this. It's basically a ranking system. And until Courtney stops, I'm always going to be behind her. I won't be able to pass her. And as far as Google is concerned, as far as Facebook is concerned, she's always going to be treated a little bit better than I am. So making sure that you're the ones that are out there doing it right first is something that your competition will never be able to overcome. When I'm talking about competition, I'm not talking about necessarily Courtney's Gymnastics and Andy's Gymnastics. It might be Courtney's Gymnastics and Andy's swim school, or Andy's baseball, or Andy's soccer, or whatever it is, right? Be the first one to do it right, and your competition won't be able to overcome you. They might be able to bolster themselves if you've got a good situation with a decent population base, and they'll still do okay, but they'll never be able to out market you in that area as far as the platforms are concerned. So tenure matters online. Okay. Does that make sense, guys?
So Andy,
Brandon, did you want to ask something?
Andy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay. So let's say there's, a handful of activities that are in that same tenure, they've been out there a long time. They've been doing this, Facebook, Google stuff for a long time. And you are brand new, or, been in a couple of years. Like, how do you put yourself out there enough?
Who's doing it and is doing it right? So let's say that they are doing it really well. They're doing it right. They're doing it perfectly. You're never going to be able to catch up to them. So you're doing better than them as far as the platform performance is concerned. But you're going to do what? You're going to do better than not doing anything. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
If you go, you know what? They're doing it already, so I'm not going to bother. Well, you're done. It's they're gonna tear you apart, basically. At least you're in the game and you're battling. But until they stop, or they maybe, and this is what happens all the time. This is the reason why it's so difficult, is that things change constantly. So remember when I said to you that the stuff that we were doing a year ago pretty much doesn't work today? If they keep doing what they were doing a year ago and they don't change, then they're not doing everything perfectly. And if you're changing with it, you can get past them, right? Because especially with websites are a big thing, especially in the kids' activity. I don't know how many of you guys have seen a gym or a dance school or a swim school, and the websites are pretty badly put together, and probably they were put together 10 years ago by someone's daughter or friend who did it for free for a couple of free classes, right? Those websites are probably being penalized now. Back then, they were probably being looked at positively by Google. Now they're being penalized by Google because Google has different criteria and different things that it's wanting. So if you're not staying up to date with everything, you very quickly turn around, your ascendancy can drop. But if you're constantly moving and agile to what Google and Facebook wants, and you're constantly being exactly where they want to be, you'll never, your competition can never pass you. But, now that doesn't mean that if you come in a year later that you can never do well. You can still do well, but I guess the point is, Brandon, is if you stay on top of it, you can be the top, and as long as you stay on top of it, you can't be passed, right? So, hey, my goal for you, if you were coming in as a new gym and you're into a new community and you felt that your competitor was doing a good job, get in there so at least you're here and you're not down here. And then they've got the pressure on them to make sure that they don't drop the ball in their marketing. Otherwise, you'll be able to take ascendancy. But tenure matters. If everyone's doing things right, it's a time thing, right? And it's just the way it is. Because Google will look at you, Brandon, and say, well, Brandon's been doing this for 5 years. Andy's been doing it for 2 years. Brandon must be the better organization, the more legit organization, right? Or we're going to give a little bit more love to Brandon's organization than Andy's organization because, hey, Brandon's been around for a lot longer. So, tenure matters. But I wouldn't take that as a give up, don't worry, don't do it anymore. Get in the game, start competing, tell your story. Oftentimes, guys, and you'll hear this tomorrow, is having the right thing that you're talking about. Remember, a lot of gyms and a lot of gym owners, a lot of swim schools, a lot of coaches, oftentimes there's lots of ego. So conversation oftentimes becomes about them and their gym. My gym's this, my gym's that, we've done this, we've done that. Remember, the hero of the game is the kids and the parents, and the conversation should always be about them and what they get and what they do and what's important to them. So oftentimes even messaging can be the thing that can get you in front of the game, right? So it's about just doing it right, though. The important thing is this bit here, right? If you do it right all the time, no one can ascend. You're going to stay at the top as far as Google and Facebook are concerned. So we got one question here. How can you see what Google is looking for? So what Google is looking for is your website to be mobile friendly. And we're going to talk a little bit about this tomorrow, Eve. So Google's looking for your website to be Google friendly. It's looking for contact information. It's looking to see if the information is relevant to the searcher. So if you need to have enough text on your website for there to be a crossover from a relevancy standpoint with the search. The website needs to operate effectively, right? It needs to be a smoothly running website that runs quickly. So when someone goes to it, it loads fast. So don't put big, huge photos and so forth on it. Basically, it's about user experience. Back in the day, I want to say 5 years or older, it used to be all about what your website was connected to, right? So the way the Google algorithm would work, it would say, if Brandon's got a website out there and there's 20 people that are linked to Brandon's website, then that means, and Andy's website doesn't have anybody linked to it or 2 people linked to it, then Google would look at it and say, okay, Brandon's website has more people that endorse his website, so his website and his business must be better. Right, that was how the algorithm worked, and the idea was if people are referring or sending people to another website, that must mean that they're good. The problem with that is it could be gamed, right? So I could go out there and add 100 links a day, and suddenly have 1,000 websites linking back to my website, and I could have a bunch of trash on that website. Brandon could be great and have his 20, but Google would rank me higher because I've gone out and done that stuff, which is really irrelevant to the experience of the user. Now it's all about how well your website runs, how much traffic goes on it, what the user experience is. So when somebody goes to your website, how many of them just arrive and leave, right? Google looks at that stuff. And really from your standpoint, so you don't need to be marketing experts and technology experts. What you need to be thinking is, does my website have the information that they need, which is contact information, addresses, phone numbers, all of the good stuff, really easy to find. And we're going to talk about this tomorrow. And does is the user experience really good, right? So fast loading, does it look good? Is it inspiring? Do people click around on it? All of that good stuff. If it's not, if it's a bit of a laborish job to get through it, and it's not that good, and people aren't staying and leaving, that's a good sign that you need to do some stuff. One of the biggest things right now is mobile friendly. So many gyms, unfortunately, are not mobile friendly. Many are, thankfully, but if you're not, then what mobile friendly means is if you look on your gym website and it doesn't adjust to fit on a mobile phone, Google will actually down rank you, right? Google will even go as far as to almost not show you to somebody that's looking on their cell phone, or you'll be very low on the list on the cell phone, right? Considering that usage on cell phones now, internet searching and so forth is like 70%. That's a massive hit. So being mobile friendly is good. And it's not just mobile friendly from a Google standpoint, which is technical. It's from is it set out right? So when people go there, is it easy for them to click on things? Can they just click on your phone number and it just dials? They don't have to, remember the phone number, or, is the user experience really, really good? So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow and Wednesday. And then Ali, you said when I was in business school, it was explained that Google is always changing its algorithm, so the search results are all, so the search results are always accurate. Yeah, they're constantly upgrading. That's why whatever we're doing today probably won't be working as well as it does today, in a year's time. Facebook is exactly the same. And I'll give you the difference between Facebook and Google and why we always recommend that you use both. Right. So Facebook is a proactive medium. Google is a reactive medium. So with Facebook, we can reach out and target all the parents in your local area and put your message in front of them. And they might not have even been thinking about it. They might not have even known that you exist. They might not even been thinking about gymnastics or swim or dance or anything. But we can put that idea in their head and they start thinking about it, right? We can start branding, we can start getting that thought in their head. Google is a reactive medium, meaning it only reacts when you put something into it. So you say, hey, I want to find a swim school, and you type it in, and then all the swim schools come up, right? Working them together is amazing, because let's say somebody is searching for gymnastics and they type in gymnastics, they go to your website. Facebook then looks and says, hey, this person went to the website, they have a Facebook account. The next time they go to Facebook, oh, you turn up. So if they haven't done business with you, you're remarketing to them. So all the business that you might do through Google then carries over into Facebook, and you get them in a little ecosystem and you keep talking to them until they do business with you. That's tremendously powerful. Like, there's never been a time which is so powerful as it is right now. There's a reason why, while everybody else in the economy was hurting, online marketers like us and online sellers and e-commerce was doing really, really well. It's because the platforms have never been as strong as they are, right? So that's it. So hopefully you've got a little bit of an idea of kind of where we're at. So what's next is tomorrow we're going to be doing branding and messaging, right? And we're going to be talking about how to talk to the parents, how to go through it, how to make sure that your website is in the right reference to actually, get the communication going in an effective way, making sure that Google and Facebook like what you're doing. On Wednesday, that's Tuesday, we're going to be doing that. On Wednesday, we're going to be building a campaign where we're going to focus a lot, and it's going to be pretty heavy duty. It's probably the golden part of all of this training as well. Branding and messaging and building the campaigns are really important. The building of a campaign is where my partner is going to dig into, this is how you target exactly the person that wants to do business with you. It's really gold. And I highly recommend that you've really got to turn up to that, because that is the game changer. All of a sudden, every dollar that you spend goes in front of a parent with a child that's most likely, able to do business with you. That's a game changer, right? And then on Thursday, I'll be coming back and we'll be talking about, okay, we're now driving all this business. This is what we've seen statistically is the best way to deal with that incoming inquiry and turn it into a gymnast or a swimmer. Right? And we're going to walk through that with you guys so you can see what our best performing gyms are doing to not just convert 10% or 20%, but to convert, most of the leads that are coming through, most of the inquiries that are coming through, right? Because there's a difference between converting somebody that's already in the gym to converting the lead, because you got to get them from lead to in your gym. Once they're in the gym, you guys have a high success rate, but we got to get them from that inquiry to walking through the doors. And that is what we're going to talk about. It's getting them into your gym. So if you have any questions, any more questions, drop them in the chat. I'm going to quickly talk about some things here as well. So we've got some resources available. Please join the gymnastics marketing group. There's this kind of stuff going on all the time. This is actually an old thing, this number 2, sign up with a donation. We've got a gymnastics marketing academy. We actually don't call it that anymore. We call it Pay What You Can. And it's there's something like 80 different classes in there of how to do all the different things with Facebook and Google. And it's actually a tool that we use to train our interns. So when we get a new employee, we bring them in and they go through. In fact, Jamie, I think you've gone through the gymnastics marketing academy. Brantley, you're probably going through it right now. Brantley and Jamie are newer employees of ours, and we put all of our employees through it to learn how to actually do this business. And when we first built it, it was just for internal use for training, but we decided to actually turn it into a tool that you guys can use. And if you have the time and the effort, you can actually learn how to do it. And the only cost to you is whatever you want to pay us. If you can't afford it because the pandemic's been rough on you, don't pay us. Just sign up, get in there, and start learning and doing it. It's lifetime access as well. If you want to pay us something because you appreciate it, I'm not going to say no. If you want to pay us $1 million, feel free. I'll take it. But you can pay $0, and I'd rather you pay $0 and do it and it help your gym or help your business than you don't sign up and because you feel bad about it and your gym hurts because of it. And it's getting updated constantly all the time as well. So I highly recommend that you do that. That's the Gymnastics Marketing Academy. You can find it by going to the Creatively Disruptive, which is our website, and click on what we teach. And you can actually select the Gymnastics Marketing Academy. We have a small business marketing academy, which is slightly different. The Gymnastics Marketing Academy is specifically designed for dance schools, swim schools, and gymnastics. Okay, highly recommend that you do that. And then finally, the last thing that we're doing here, we only have 10 of these a month. I think Jamie's just dropped in a little thing here that you can reach out to her. But we are offering 2 months where you don't pay us anything and we do your marketing for the first 2 months to get you going, because we know that what a big difference it will make to you when the Olympics comes. And we will work with you. You've got to pay Facebook, you've got to pay Google, but we will actually do all the work. We'll build it all out, we'll run it, we'll run the ads, we'll change the ads up. Because we know that it will make a massive difference, and that will get you almost right up to the Olympics. We only are taking 10 organizations a month because we just don't have enough capacity to do more than that. I mean, we can't do free work for everybody all the time. But if you're interested in doing that, reach out to Jamie, and she'll have like some questions for you, and we're kind of like going through an interview process. And if you can, she will bring you on board. Our hope is that at the end of the 2 months you keep going because it's just so great, and you continue working with us. So, but we will pay for your first 2 months to help you get going. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Jamie. We'll be happy to help you. And that's it. I hope you all got something out of this today. It really is an opportunity and game changing. I want you to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I want you to have hope. I want you to feel excited. I think with the way technology is and what we're seeing with some of our really high performing clients is all of a sudden your business that you love and you have so much heart involved in, your soul's involved in it, can not only be something that does great things for your community, does great things for the kids that you help, but actually can be a legitimate business that actually can fund and give you a life that you want as well. And I'd love to see all of you that are leasing your gyms to actually be able to own your gyms, all of the own your gyms can build a business that you can someday sell or pass on to somebody, and actually have a really great retirement and a great life from that business. And I think with the way technology is today, the amount of parents that need this, that need you guys, you have a wonderful opportunity, and I think we can get you there. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, I'll go back to the question and answer them. I'm happy to help. Other than that, we'll see you tomorrow. Please make sure you come in to these other trainings, because we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how to do it, right? Today was just talking to you about what's possible and what can happen. Tomorrow and Wednesday are going to be the nuts and bolts of doing it. Sign up to the Gymnastics Marketing Academy, so you've got it too, so you can do some your own training outside of these trainings. And let's make some things happen. So does anybody have any questions before I kick you all out? Anybody? Is everyone going? You can go if you wish. I'm going to stay here until you all go. I guess kicking you out is probably just doesn't feel right. All right, guys.